Arc Raiders has restored my faith in humanity. That's a big statement to make, but let me explain. See, Arc Raiders really wasn't on my radar until after it launched, and like probably most people, I didn't think extraction shooters were my thing. I've talked about not really understanding the appeal of Dark Souls before, because I just don't think I have that masochistic part of me that enjoys getting repeatedly humbled. But after seeing the suspiciously good reviews, I had to see what all the fuss was about. And my god, I get it. See, my only impression of extraction shooters has been Escape from Tarkov, and honestly the thought of playing a game where you risk all your equipment only to get killed by a hacker couldn't have been less appealing. But Arc Raiders was made by the same studio that made the finals, and that game is incredibly slept on. So if anyone could pull it off, it was them. So I boot it up, jump into a match, and I'm immediately killed on sight by the first person I see. And I genuinely thought this was going to be the average gameplay experience. But then something incredible happened. On my second match, I was approached by a random guy, and he wanted nothing more than to be friendly. He shared some of his loot, taught me how field depots worked, and after working through a nearby building, we got out safely together. At that moment, during that fairly uneventful run, I got it. I had achieved enlightenment. Because in a world where you can just get shot on sight and get all your shit stolen, there were people who do genuinely want to help. And at that moment on this run, that man was my fucking hero. See, the game never explicitly tells you not to kill your fellow raiders, but it never encourages you either. See, I found that for 90% of players, if you treat them well and just be friendly, they'll be friendly back. And as crazy as it sounds, that realization genuinely filled me with an incredible sense of optimism. You've got to understand, I've been making news videos for 6 years now, which means most of the time I wake up in the morning, eat breakfast, and go on to write about the worst thing in the world that happened while I was sleeping. I've written about countless coups, violent protests, government crackdowns, wars, piece of shit dictators, and whatever other awful things you can think of. I think that just gave me the impression that humanity was a lot more irredeemable than it really was. But I think this game reminded me that most people in this world are pretty chill. Man is good. Like, sure, you can kill another player and steal all their stuff, but most people don't do that. The whole game's built on an uneasy trust between people, which is ultimately just an extrapolated prisoner's dilemma. Like, if we wanted to maximize the most amount of loot for the most amount of players, the logical conclusion is for players not to fight each other. Banding together against the common PvE threats is just infinitely more profitable. And I think most people understand this. I've dumped a pretty sizable number of hours into this game, and throughout my entire solo experience, I've never actually killed anyone. Like, sure, if you kill a random person, you get to steal everything they have, but maybe I'm just speaking for myself here, but I don't see the appeal of that at all. Like, time to kill is so short in this game that if you decide to gun someone down, it's not even a fight. It's just a murder. There's no sport in that. Killing another person and taking all their stuff just doesn't feel good to me. Like, I can find my own loot, it's not that hard. And if they had something valuable, they would have thrown it into their safe pocket anyway. But making friends in this game when it's so easy to be enemies feels so incredibly good. And I fucking live for that thrill. If I have an opportunity to help out my fellow raiders, I'm gonna do so at a moment's notice. Like this one time, I saved a guy at the end of a round who was almost certainly gonna die from a boss enemy. And thanks to some stranger he never met, he gets to get out unscathed. Or another time when me and my partner came across a pair of players who were bleeding out at extraction. They were probably certain that we were about to execute them and take everything they had. But instead, we revived them both and get them out alive. They're not going to remember the guy who randomly gunned them down. But my god, they'll remember us. Another time, a random guy was a lookout for me as I looted a boss I just took down. So I tipped him a red part for his trouble. I still think about that guy. I hope he's doing okay. In another instance, I went to a high tier loot room, but another guy beat me to it. I just told him that the room was his, and that I was just gonna chill outside until he was done. Even the scraps can be pretty good. But he comes out a minute later and gives me a rare gun. Like, what an absolute legend. And I found that a lot of people who shoot on sight tend to reconsider their decision when you state your friendly intentions. A lot of people aren't looking to steal your stuff, they just want to protect their own. And if you keep your gun holstered and just talk to them, a lot of the time they'll just chill out. Sometimes they'll even apologize and patch you up for the trouble. Like, I can shoot and kill a guy in a million other games, but using word jitsu to defuse a situation after they've already opened up, like, my god, inject that into my veins. And that's the thing, a collaborative spirit will always get you further in this game. Like, one time I made a friend, and only a minute later, some random psychopathic degenerate decided to light him up. But again, you tend to catch more flies with honey. We banded together to hunt this guy down, and I even offered to revive him if he stopped acting like a prick, but he not so politely declined. I don't even consider this killing the guy. He just used us to commit suicide. There was another time when the entire server was doing a bunker mission, and everyone was just really civil, even patiently lining up to download the data. At one point we heard someone getting downed in the next room, and what followed was a fucking murder mystery to find the attempted killer. It was frontier justice, and these guys were out for blood. It does make me wonder how many people in this game are genuinely going out of their way to steal shit, and how many are just on edge after being gunned down one too many times. Because as you see in this next clip, that 10% of people still do exist.
Yeah, I can get you shields.
Just shoot me up. Thanks, bro.
Yo, what the fuck?
Oh, yeah.
And here's when we get to that combative part of the equation. Because my friends don't subscribe to my diplomatic playstyle. They're a bunch of shoot first and ask questions later motherfuckers, and quite understandably, they've gotten pretty pissed off at my rule to never shoot first. And I'm not sure what it is, but people in bigger squads tend to be more aggressive for some reason. And because time to kill is so low, a lot of players just find it safer to get shots off first. What this means for my diplomatic angle is that making friends tends to be a hell of a lot harder. Because one-on-one, I just have to convince one guy that I'm not a threat. But for 3-on-3, I gotta convince 3 separate people that all 3 degenerates on my team aren't about to gun them down. And if I'm honest, I have the same doubts about my guys as they do. The upside of this approach is if they do shoot first and we eventually come out ahead, we get to use the full extent of the English language to express from the bottom of our hearts how insufficient they are as human beings.
How are you?
Down 2. Or maybe down 2, I don't know. Yeah, they're both downed. Fuck you, dickheads, we didn't want to fight. Now you both die. Oh shit, I got it too. Fuck you, idiot, you're gay. We would have left you alive. We would have left you alive. We didn't want to fight. No, you guys suck.
Bro.
We didn't want to fight. You guys suck. You guys deserve to lose. We didn't want to fight you guys.
You put this on yourself, bro.
You probably realize by now that I play like a borderline pacifist, so if they genuinely can't beat us when I'm basically role-playing as Nelson fucking Mandela, then you better believe we're doing some serious psychological damage. And honestly, I'm not a believer in karma or anything, but this game seems to inherently punish people who act like pricks. I can't count the amount of times I've come across hostile players who down me on sight, then get immediately wiped out themselves. And you know I have to give them shit for it. What's the next step of your master plan here, bud? Get the most fucked. Well, like, there was another case when I found a snap hook blueprint, which for those who don't play is like a lottery winning pool. But I already had one, so I just figured I'd put it in my safe pocket and give it to the next player I found. It was less than a minute later when another player called out that he was friendly, and I was so excited to give it to him. But he then decides to shoot me on sight for the few scraps of trash that wasn't in my safe pocket. I know a guy who broke up with a South American lawyer who modeled on the side, and I still consider this to be a bigger fumble. I think a lot of things tend to affect the mentality of people you come across, and that's all important in warping a person's perception of this game. For some reason, people on weekends tend to be noticeably more aggressive, but I haven't quite figured out why this might be the case. I've also noticed that Asian servers were more hostile than Australian servers, but maybe that's just because we couldn't understand each other. I also found that turning off console crossplay made my matches noticeably more friendly. I don't know why that's the case, but console players seem to be way quicker to kill you on sight. One thing that I highly suspect but just can't prove is that the game has a hidden matchmaking system for people who tend to PvP a lot. Because when I talk about my own experience with other people, they act like I'm a fucking crazy person. They describe matches where people are camping extractions, backstabbing you at every turn, or just shooting you on sight if you're lucky. But I jump on, and I get games that are literally collaborative utopias. Everyone's just out doing their own thing, meditated, moisturized, and entirely at one with themselves and the universe. These players have people in their lives who genuinely love them, and boy does it show. Then again, maybe the game just weights its skill-based matchmaking on how much damage people do to their fellow raiders. My super low damage might just be putting me up against people who have never held a controller before. With that said, I still think that most people are inherently good, and they're usually not inclined to kill people that they don't consider a threat. I actually tested this for a few matches. I just went to the game without a weapon, and spent the whole time playing a flute in the Buried City subway station. If you did this in the New York subway, I think you'd probably get similar results. Some people were cautiously curious, others would boogie alongside me, and there was this one guy who had brought his own flute with him who just decided to join in. Some people even gave me tips. They'd just patch me up with bandages or drop some of their spare loot. The flute provides. And this doesn't just work in solos either. I dropped in with 2 other friends with no weapons at all, just 3 flutes and a dream. And people didn't want to shoot us. I mean, we obviously weren't a threat, and what kind of fucking psycho kills the flute gang? We might as well have had a magic force field around us. And that run ended up being the most successful we had that night. And that's why I love this game so goddamn much, man. Because these moments of kindness are genuinely priceless. And I'm willing to risk getting killed by Psycho McGee every once in a while if it means I can experience that. The social aspect of not knowing who you can trust is what makes the game so special. And I really hope the devs expand on it. Like, give us more ways to interact with each other. I've seen a lot of players suggest a bounty system, and I'd love to see that. Like, if someone's gonna be a prick and stab me in the back at extraction, sure, they can do that. But don't think I'm not vindictive enough to spend half my net worth paying someone else to hunt you down like the animal you are. It would let PvP players become genuinely morally righteous keepers of the peace, as opposed to just being a villain by default. Shit, make the binoculars a bounty scanner or something. No one's using them anyway. And give me more options to be friendly. Give me more instruments. Let me revive without a defibrillator. And shit, let me send dead raiders loot back to them. Make it a phantom pain balloon or something. Like, this game should have social scientists chomping at the bit to get data from Embark Studios. And personally, I just want to know how many people would return loot to a random person, even when they have zero incentive to do so. I think I'm just fascinated by how players interact with the game, more than the game itself. It's just so interesting to me. But let's be honest, even with my admittedly optimistic view on humanity, I understand that there are some clear limits. The devs have spoken some seriously good shit if they think I'm about to risk a 200 grand loadout to take down a queen, just so some rat fuck could kill me after I've done all the work. The only people I've ever seen with queen parts had to kill someone else to get it, and I'm not doing that. This game might have convinced me that man is inherently good, but it's also convinced me that 1 in 1,000 people probably deserve to be thrown into a volcano. But I guess it's the same thing with voluntary account wipes. It took me 50 hours to finally find a blueprint to make green glow sticks of friendship. There is nothing on God's green earth the devs can offer that I'd be willing to trade for it. At this stage, I think I have to acknowledge that the handful of malicious players are the ones that make this game work. If everyone was like me, I guarantee that the setting wouldn't even be possible. PvP kills would immediately drop to 0, and we'd be farming queens at a rate the developers wouldn't even think would be possible. The threat of getting killed is what makes the game so interesting. And of course, this is just my experience, and what I personally find fun and interesting. If you like the thrill of hunting people, stabbing them in the back, or camping extractions, I'm not saying that I don't think you should do that, or that I think that I'm better than you. That's because I know I'm better than you absolute piece of shit, scourge on humanity, scum of the earth. I hope you never find happiness in this life or the next, you dirt-eating, knuckle-dragging punchline of a joke no one wanted, motherfucker.